my worth can be diminished by another human being. Once you see that belief, everything can change. Here's what emotional freedom feels like. It doesn't feel like I don't experience emotions. I don't feel anything. I'm a robot. Freedom means the reactions that we have pass through us instead of taking over us. Your center stays intact. And most importantly, you do not ask the real question. Who would I be if my worth no longer needed defending? Because that version of you already exists. Your nervous system is just learning that it's safe to come home. The Johnny Lawrence podcast is a podcast essentially about self-leadership. What does that mean? It doesn't mean I expect you to go and run a company or be the head of any sort of department at work or even go and lead an expedition somewhere up a mountain or across some ocean or desert. Self-leadership for me is about finally being able to feel like your life has choices and options and have the faith in yourself to make a decision about what you should do next in your life. To feel like, right or wrong, you're in charge. You're in charge of the decisions you make. Now, you might not be in charge of the outcomes, and sometimes you might get the outcomes you don't want, and that's okay because we can choose to take what's helpful from that situation and learn from what wasn't. So why do I say that? Why did I start the podcast that way today? Well, there's something that even now still comes up for me as I endeavor to try and lead myself. I never want you to think that I'm coming at this whole podcasting thing or this whole self-development thing or this whole social media thing, whatever thing it is that you enjoy that I do. I never want you to think I'm coming at it from a place where I think I'm better than you, that I know more than you, or anything more than you, ever. In fact, I really do like to look at myself as somebody that's on this journey with you. And that's why today I picked a topic that, if I'm honest, I've noticed still can catch me out. Because again, I don't want you to think that I think I'm perfect or even that you think I'm perfect. So I'm going to talk about the things that I'm finding hard from time to time as a way to help you understand that this thing that we call self-development is about that. It's about us developing ourselves. And there's no real promise that we're going to get to any sort of final destination, but we're going to learn a lot along the way. And hopefully, in fact, I'm almost confident of it, we're going to have fun trying, experimenting, realizing that those things that really, really bother us today, in 10 years' time, we won't even remember they happened a lot of the time. So there are certain people online that when they pop up, whether it be on my feed or in the comments or just their name, if I'm completely honest, that I immediately feel this tightening, a drop, a shift in my self-worth. And what's uncomfortable for me about that feeling is the fact that I feel I should know better. That I've done the work, I've experienced some healing, I've experienced some growth, and yet there it is, still there. So if you felt that, and you feel like there are these people out there that have this invisible power over you, or even over your emotional state, then this is the episode for you. You see, it isn't about them, it's not about weakness, it's about freedom. And today, we're going to talk about how you can claim it back. Here's the thing, there's a lot of advice around this topic. There's a lot of advice around this space. And most of the advice, in my opinion, is very surface level. It probably sounds something like, just unfollow them. Why not mute them? Why not protect your peace? I've heard that one before, many times. And look, sometimes that is necessary. And I understand that many of the situations that we navigate online could be a little bit complex. There can be reasons why you can and can't do certain things. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge that. It's not quite as straightforward as everyone likes to believe and everyone gives advice on. But I want to say this because sometimes avoidance isn't peace. And I feel like that's what we want. Most of us are seeking peace. Most of us just want this thing to just go away. We don't want to feel like this anymore. We certainly don't feel like we're choosing it. And here's the kicker. Sometimes avoidance is just fear wearing spiritual language. Because if something has the power to unsettle you, then blocking it doesn't heal it. It just hides it. I don't want a life that depends very much on who wanders into the room or who I encounter online. I don't want that life. I don't want that life. I with like a nervous system that can stay grounded no matter who walks into the room or no matter who I scroll past and see. And that is what this episode is about. And I want to start with a real clear distinction. Just because someone can impact your self-worth online, or at least feel like they can impact your self-worth online, it is not because they are powerful. But what it most likely is because there's something inside you that feels threatened. And psychologically, this happens faster than you might think. You see them and your body just reacts. Does it feel like a choice? Your mind scrambles to explain it, but your body always goes first. Your reaction isn't random. It's your nervous system asking a question. What does this person represent about me? Not consciously, emotionally. And usually the answer sounds something like, I'm not enough. I could be replaced. I'm falling behind. I'm unseen, or I'm unsafe. That is not weakness. That's conditioning, because it's very likely that at some point in your life, your worth became linked to comparison, approval, or just survival. And that link doesn't just disappear because you're all grown up now. No, it disappears when it's felt, understood, and released. Here's another question to sit with. And I say sit with because these are all things that I had to do. Because like I said right at the beginning, these are experiences that I've been having from time to time, especially as I start to move into different areas. Who am I to want to be in the podcast charts? Who am I to want to make a book and put that book out there with all my ideas and concepts that can be challenged easily? Who am I to put a post out offering perspective? Who am I to create a course? Who am I to do all of these things? So here's a question I want you to sit with when it comes to them. Why them? Why not everyone? Why not strangers? Why is it these specific people? And I think it's because they're not just people, they're symbols. They might represent a version of you that still carries some shame. They, or a version of you in a world you once wanted to belong to, a standard that you felt that you've been measured against in the past. Or maybe it's a wound where your worth was once questioned. And here's the part that most people miss. You're not reacting to who they are now. You're reacting to who you had to be around people like them in the past. That reaction was learned. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. Very likely at the center of this one belief. And it's subtle, very, very subtle. It can sound like this. My worth can be diminished by another human being. Not logically, but emotionally. And here's the thing. Once you see that belief, everything can change, because spiritually it's not true, and psychologically it's outdated, because your worth isn't negotiated in some comment section somewhere on social media. It isn't decided by visibility, validation, or proximity. It's intrinsic. But here's the truth. You don't heal this belief by arguing with it. You heal it by meeting the part of you that still believes in it. So let me give you something practical, something that you can use, something that I have used and do use and will use in the future. Because see, as that exposure gets greater, as more and more people listen to the podcast, and I dare say very soon, my book will be out. All of these questions resurface in different ways and the ante feels like it's been upped. So this is work, like I said, is not self-developed, it's self-development. We kind of are always meeting similar, not the same, but similar situations, but on higher levels where the ante seems like it's been upped and the consequences seem greater. That doesn't mean that they are greater. That just is how it feels. And boy, does it feel like that. So the next time that you see one of these people when you're scrolling, and you will, don't scroll faster. Don't tense up. Don't shame yourself. Do this instead. I've got some stuff written down here in front of me because I've thought long and hard about this. And I think that step one, it's going to annoy you a little bit, not going to lie. You're going to get a bit like, yeah, Johnny, because it's that easy. But just stick with me a minute. Step one is to pause. Just pause. When you feel those uncomfortable emotions come up, take those emotions, take those feelings, take that lowness, that change of direction, whatever it is that happens in that moment, take it as a cue. Take it as a cue and recognize that in that moment, because you feel like that, because you have detected this change in emotion, that this is your opportunity to just pause a minute. And when you pause, say to yourself internally, this is a reaction, not a truth. That single sentence creates space. And most importantly, it stops you from spiraling off where we know we're probably going to end up going. Step two Name the emotion, not the story, the feeling. Because here's the thing, you'll start to realize over time, not straight away, but over time, is that one person that you see, they've got a whole story behind them. They've got a whole meaning that you have created. And that meaning then splinters off into other things. And before you know it, your worth has been utterly obliterated. And you feel terrible and you're not as good as, and their success or their perceived success becomes about your failure. So name the emotion, not the story, the feeling. Is it shame, fear, anger, sadness? Or is it inadequacy? And when you name it without judgment. Observe it. Don't judge it, because naming regulates. All of a sudden, you're bringing that emotion out of the shadows so you can see it. And most often when you see it, when you name it, it's nowhere near as scary as it was when it's in the shadows. Step 3, ask the real question. And that question is, what part of me feels threatened right now? And then ask yourself, what does this part of me need? What does it need? It never ceases to amaze me how many problems in our life can be genuinely solved when we put a hand on our heart and we ask ourselves what we need in that moment. And here's the important bit. It's not what we should need. It's what we actually need. Usually it's reassurance, safety, compassion, something that we don't tend to be that good at asking for. And once you've identified that, give it to yourself, not through logic, but through presence. And lastly, and this is the most important bit, because this is the bit where you get to step into and reclaim the way that you would like this to be instead. Because step 4 is reclaim your authority. I want you to quietly remind yourself, my worth is intrinsic. It does not fluctuate online. And then take a moment to let that land in your body, not as just a simple mantra, but as a truth. Because here's what emotional freedom actually feels like. It doesn't feel like I don't experience emotions. I don't feel anything. I'm a robot. I'm stoic, or whatever you want to label it, because that's not what stoicism is, by the way. But a lot of people think it is. You don't have to like everybody. And you're certainly not approving of their behavior. Look at that finger pointing. Turning into parent-teacher mode here to avoid that. Because freedom, to me anyway, means the reactions that we have pass through us instead of taking over us. Your center stays intact. And most importantly, you do not abandon yourself, because peace isn't the absence of a trigger. We're never, I'd say never. When we're online, we can't really know what's going to trigger us. We can't really know what's going to send us off. And sometimes they can be really circumstantial. It could just be stuff that's happened during the day, and then you get home and something happens and it's like, feels like a bit more of that. So peace isn't the absence of triggers. Peace is not identifying with them. And the moment you stop identifying, the moment you stop outsourcing your worth, that's when the grip loosens. So let me leave you with a question. Sit with it. Journal it, if that's what you like doing. Let it work on you. Who would I be if my worth no longer needed defending? Because that version of you already exists. Your nervous system is just learning that it's safe to come home. And if this episode resonated with you, just like all of this information resonates with me, if it's named something that you've not been able to articulate, sit with that too, because there's nothing, I promise you, wrong with you. You're not broken. You're just becoming free. And as we become free, the people that had the keys to our prison won't like that very much. And they'll be very, very vocal about that. They might even make you feel like it's your fault. Anyway, thank you for listening to today's episode. And I'll see you next week for another episode of the Johnny Lawrence Podcast.